Hello friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where I'm really hoping that the inconsiderate jerks over at LaGuardia and the inconsiderate jerks who live above us can just keep it down for a little while I record this video, because I really want to talk about Mastermind Creations' Optus Nox. This is the obvious, but still much appreciated Nemesis repaint of Mastermind Creations' Optus Pexus mold, which I did have Optus Pexus briefly, but sold it off for various reasons, including knowing that a Nemesis version was inevitable, and I think like a week after I sold it off, they announced this, so I count that as a win. But yes, now we've got Optus Pexus, but in black and red, and this is the superior version. I'm sorry. The Nemesis color scheme is always going to win out over the standard Prime color scheme. That's just how it is. Prime looks better in black, and this figure, no exception. And this is a kind of Cybertronian van mode, I guess. I don't know, but like it's Cybertronian, so it doesn't really need to be that recognizable. And I think it works really well here. Optus Pexus was fine, but like, you know, it's Optimus Prime, so you've got like the red and blue, you've got the blue legs, so like you had this kind of like red section going all along the top and then blue towards the back. It looks more cohesive here because everything is black or this kind of gunmetal-y gray, and it makes everything just look so much better and so much more cohesive in terms of color. And you've also got these really, really nice metallic, it's almost like blood red, but metallic colors for the front of the vehicle with, I guess these are lights, and then also the windshield, which doesn't really need. But then there's also some pink detailing for some of the kind of tiny lights and whatnot in the front, and also a little bit of this gunmetal-y silver. There is no teal on this figure, which is a shame. I feel like they could have worked teal in here somewhere, but it's a pretty cohesive looking, for a Cybertronian vehicle mode anyway, a pretty cohesive looking vehicle. It rolls. It's doesn't, like, for some reason I can't get mine to line up quite right so that like all the wheels roll at the same time. It still rolls, but some wheels just aren't touching, which is a little bit odd. But as you can see, there's some decent molding in here. I like this kind of layered effect in the front here, but a lot of what's here is just obviously folded up robot bits, like these struts back here, the bits going on down here, and like whatever's happening in the back here. But it's fine, you know, it's a Cybertronian mode. It doesn't really need to hide the robot. It's basically a black stick with a handful of silvery gunmetal-y accents, and then some really nice red popping bits in the front. As you can see, I've got the cannons stored on the top here, and those just have these kind of slots here, and there are these tabs here. So you just tab those in, and they plug in and just kind of store up there. You don't have to keep them there, but you can. And then these are two blasters that separate out, and you can see there's this kind of mirrored tab connection there that just slides together, and that locks everything in place. And these can extend, and the handle flips down, and you get what is essentially two vaguely ion blaster looking weapons. I'm not particularly interested in using these for this guy once I'm done with the video, so I just kind of have them out to show you all, but there's that. He comes with way more accessories though, which we will talk about when we get to the robot mode. But for now, that is pretty much it for the vehicle. It's just everything here we're gonna pretty much be seeing pretty much nothing. All of this is going to be visible in the robot mode, so yeah, that's all I've got to say about the vehicle. So let's move on to size comparisons so then we can get to the really good stuff. Here, oh man, I was so bad at lining up these shots. Here he is with the standard deluxe squad, and as you can see, the vehicle mode is definitely quite a bit bigger and beefier than a standard deluxe. And in keeping with tradition, let me adjust this again, but in keeping with tradition, because this is a Mastermind Creations comparison, we're going to give Spartan here the respect that he deserves. So here is Optus Nox next to Mastermind Creations Spartan. Right, so that is it for the vehicle mode. Time for the robot mode. Now I will say, when I got Optus Nox, I thought, very cool, highly articulated robot. The truck mode, it's fine for what it is. But the transformation has some irritations, in particular in getting the arms lined up and getting the legs slid up, because like the arms are sitting inside the legs, and the way it does, like the way it comes together is kind of tricky. But I watched the official Mastermind Creations transformation video for Optus Pexis, which you can check out up there, and it showed that it's much easier to do the transformation if you get the upper body done and then slide the legs into place and close these bits around it, rather than sliding everything into place and trying to wedge everything together and force things past other things. So yeah, knowing how to properly transform this in a much easier way makes it so much more pleasant to mess with. I've actually transformed this guy a couple of times back and forth for fun, which is saying something considering how much I tried to avoid it with Optus Pexis. And it's the same exact engineering and transformation, it's just now I know how to do it better, and that makes a huge difference. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward it in a sec, but to start I am going to remove some bits. There are these pieces on the side here, which are storage for the Matrix Gimmick, and I hate these things, and we'll be tossing them in the box once this video is over, because these are obnoxious and they fall off all the time. So I'm just taking them off now so I don't have to deal with them in the transformation. You don't actually have to remove them for the transformation, but I'm doing it because it's so easy to knock them out of place. What you do have to remove for the transformation are these things. These kind of guns on, or pipes, or whatever you want to call them, along the sides here. And we will deal with these again when we get back to the robot mode, because these will be put back on, but these are coming off for the sake of the transformation, and unfortunately it is kind of necessary because the way that these sit, this piece here pulls out, and this bit is like right in front of it, so you do have to take it off in order to get that piece to be able to come out, otherwise you're just going to knock it off anyway. But with all that said, let's readjust here, and let us turn this into a humanoid robot. And here we have Optus Nox, and by extension Optus Pexis, in robot mode, and this is a pretty cool looking robot. Like, there's practically no kibble on this. I guess there's the wheels and the windshield chunk back there, but it tucks away really nicely. It's got really nice proportions. The colors are great with, you know, it's primarily black, but now you get much more of this kind of gunmetal-y silvery color in the shins and the waist and thighs and the biceps. And I think this just works in a very lovely way. The hands are a bit of a sticking point I was seeing, where they're kind of this grayish brown color, but in hand, no pun intended, it doesn't really bother me at all. Like, looking at the photos, this looked a little bit lighter and a little bit more brown, but, you know, seeing it in person, it's really not that bad. I thought I'd be distracted by the hands, but I'm actually not at all. So I guess something to consider if you were wondering about that. Now, before going too much further, I'm going to bring back the pieces that we took off before. There are these pipe/gun pieces that do reattach to the forearms. And there are these little bits in here that actually slide up and down. I find the easiest way to do this is just peg them back in. And this is kind of, you can see how it sits in vehicle mode and just slide it forward for the robot mode. So it lines up a little bit more with the forearm. It's fine. I don't particularly like having to remove those to do the transformation. I suppose if you really wanted to, you could take this off and peg it in here so you could have like a double blaster arm thing, which is kind of cool. But you can reattach those, and then also there are these pieces for the Matrix Gimmick that can reattach to the hip skirts here. And there's just these little slots that go over these tabs. And I, as I said, hate it because they don't hold on super well and they're really easy to knock off when you're messing with it. I really wish that these could just store in the chest along with the Matrix, but they can't. So yeah, the coloring on this is amazing. The proportions are amazing. There's a ton of detail, which was pretty much everything that we saw in the vehicle mode with the exception of the thighs and pelvis and like midsection, but like the arms, the upper torso, the lower legs, all that stuff we saw in vehicle mode. You do get some nice molding on the insides of the legs, and the thighs have some nice molded bits. The pelvis is a Optimus Prime pelvis, I guess, with these kind of lines around the hip skirts, and then you also get the kind of truck grill looking thing, and the kind of gunmetal-y color over the black for the midsection. And the rest of it is, like I said, stuff we pretty much saw in vehicle mode. Also, I like that he's got these kind of smokestacks on his shoulders. We did see that on the outside of the vehicle mode, but I think it's kind of a nice touch. I don't know, I know it's part of the original Optimus Prime design, but I like it. The wheels on the back, too, I think those look good. They're big and chunky, and they stand out as a design element, but they're not so big that they get in the way of anything. So we've got some nice molded detail on the sides of the biceps. As for the head, I am kind of two minds about it. We've got this is the version that comes on the figure when you get it. He does have the standard face, which we'll show in a second, but this is what the figure comes with, and it's got the broken faceplate that shows the shouting face, and part of me thinks this is really cool. Like, it looks like Optimus Prime, but it's in black with red eyes and a kind of dark, silvery, gunmetal-y gray face, so it does look evil, and I think the damaged faceplate that shows the mouth underneath is pretty cool, but I tend to display my figures in slightly more static poses, and if he's just standing there looking cool, but his faceplate is cracked and he's shouting, it just kind of looks weird to me. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this head on or switch to the other one. But I do think this is cool. It's just I don't think it fits my particular display purposes. That's all I'm saying. But you do also get the standard face-plated face option, and it's the same thing. It just doesn't have the cracked faceplate, basically. It's just a faceplate, so you unscrew the back of the head, pull this off, put this on, and screw it back together. And all the paint is pretty much just in the front here, like that little crest thing and the face. The eyes are part of the back part of the head. I kind of feel like maybe it would have been nice if they painted something on the sides here, but I think considering everything else that this figure's got going on, it's not that big a deal. But hey, good news, if you prefer this head and you want to get this figure, then you don't have to switch anything, because this is what comes on it. Now for the articulation, the head is on a ball joint, and then the neck is actually on a kind of hinge setup, so the neck itself can move up and down. The panel that this sits on can also move back. I kind of wish that locked in place better. It frictions in place pretty well, but it isn't that difficult to push it back inadvertently if you push down on the head or pull back too far. But you get some pretty decent up because of the combination of that hinge and the ball joint. You can tilt, you can look down quite a bit, and of course you can rotate. The shoulders have a lot of joints. So there's a joint here. There's a joint here that this is moving on. There's a joint here that this connects to, and then there's a joint in here that allows the arm to move up like that. So you can do some pretty big upward extension. Personally, what I prefer to do is because of the way that these bits sit, I feel like this is kind of necessary almost to get them to sit right. This is how it is for the vehicle mode. I flip these little bits up, rotate these up as well, so that they're kind of lined up with that, and then move this assembly down on this hinge to make the shoulders sit more level with the upper body. And then move around with this hinge. And this is very, very stiff. This one right here's got quite a bit of stiffness to it, which is fine. It's not, I don't feel like I'm going to break it, but it's kind of like if I try to move this, it ends up moving this instead because this is much stiffer. You also get a tiny bit of butterfly motion because of the transformation, so it wiggles a bit. And then you can rotate the arms around as you do, as you would expect. There is a bicep swivel. It is also quite stiff. It's workable, but it is very stiff. And also because of the engineering and geometry in here, you kind of need to move the arm out a bit if you want to rotate it further to a certain degree, so it's weirdly hampered from certain angles. There is a pretty nice elbow bend on this thing too, so you've got a double jointed elbow that bends up quite a bit, and in addition to that, there's the secondary joint actually has this little molded piston assembly, so when you straighten the arm out, it kind of goes back in, and then when you bend the arm along that hinge, it pulls down and reveals those pistons. That's completely unnecessary, but very cool. And then we've got these hands, and these hands are very, very nice hands. They're extremely well articulated. You've got a wrist swivel, as you would probably expect, but then you also get an up and down hinge, or side to side hinge, however you want to look at it, so you can have the hand coming up or going down slightly. The thumb is on a ball joint at the base, so you can rotate that and go in and out and up and down. There's a hinge here, there's a hinge here. The fingers are all multi-jointed with a hinge here, here, and here, so you can curl in there, or curl in there. And then in addition to that, there's an extra hinge along where they connect to the palm, so you can spread the hands out, or spread the fingers out to a disturbing degree. They're basically Aerosculptor's hands. As for the waist, you get a little bit of motion in the upper body, which you can rotate and kind of get a little bit of up and down crunch. It's kind of difficult because of these bits that are coming out on the sides here, but you can get a little bit out of it. And it's a little bit tricky to get things to kind of realign and look straight with all these joints in here, but it is manageable. And the lower joints for the waist, you can do rotation, you can do some ab crunch, and then you can do some side-to-side tilt. You can also extend the waist. There we go. You can also extend the waist, which gets you way more ab crunch. For the hips, the hip skirts here, they do kind of move up and out of the way if you want them to, but it looks a little weird, and the side skirts are oddly very limited. Like, they just kind of swing up. Get this out of the way. They just kind of swing up on one hinge, so you don't really get a lot of motion out of those side skirts. They're kind of pointless in that regard. However, even though the side skirts are pointless, there's a drop-down joint in the hip here. So you can see, if you pull this down, there's this joint right back here that slides down into place. So like this is it up where it's normally like kind of proportionally supposed to be, but then you can pull it down and it kind of soft settles into place in two different spots. And with that down, you can bring the leg forward, and if you get the hip skirt kind of up and out of the way, you can bring the leg forward quite a bit. You can bring the leg back quite a bit, and you can bring the leg, see these, and you can shift this up slightly, but yeah, you can bring the leg out quite a bit too. So, and there you can also see where the hip sits when it's up in its normal position versus down. So yeah, that little addition gets you quite a bit of range on the hips. You also get a thigh swivel, which is very stiff out of the box. It's loosened up over time and just using it, but it does a very, very stiff thigh swivel. And now the knees, which is interesting because you saw during transformation there's this little bit that I had to like sandwich between these two pieces, and the whole reason for that is because when you bend the knees, which are also very stiff, it pulls this kind of piston assembly up, and then as that moves up, this kneecap piece moves back and kind of fills in this bit here. So now you've got this really nice kind of detailed bend to the knee, and it's a really deep bend too. As you saw though, there is a bit of a problem with that because the knees, the legs are on a slider, and the slider does not lock into place super securely. So as you bend, it's very possible to accidentally start sliding the leg back. It's not like gonna break anything, it's not the worst, it's just annoying. Especially because the knees are so tight, it just makes it a little bit tricky. But still, you get a lot of knee bend, and I really think that's neat how that pulls the kneecap piece around. As for the feet, you get some forward and backward motion on a dual hinge, so you can actually bring this forward. You can see how's a rotation there. So you can come forward a lot if you really wanted to, like a lot. And back quite a bit too, though it does kind of break up the sculpting of the foot. That is very, very stiff. Again, not alarmingly so, but it is very stiff. But yeah, you get some backwards and forwards motion on those feet. You also get an ankle tilt, and you also get a toe. The articulation on the Optus Pexus mold, so by extension Optus Nox, is pretty freaking great. Now, as I've alluded to before, there is a matrix because of these stupid things, and Optus Nox does have a matrix thing. So to do that, I'm going to get the arms up and out of the way and rotate them back a bit, because we need to push these pieces, these bits here back a little bit at least, in order to get these doors to open. So push those back and pop these open. You can slide them forward again once you've got the cavity open, but you do need to have them slid back in order to access the matrix chamber in the first place. And now you've got the dead matrix sitting in his chest, and you can get it out of there. There's a... Oh, this is going to be tricky. So I'm going to disconnect all of this stuff because I don't like matrix gimmicks. They always get in the way. But this can actually push forward. I'm pushing from behind, but this little bit that the matrix is sitting on moves, so you can push that forward, pull out the matrix, theoretically. There we go. And the way that pegs in is there are these slots on the bottoms of it that peg into these little tabs sitting on either side of this moving piece. So there's this unsightliness going on here. And now here we've got the dead matrix, and we can peg the handles in. So these just have little tabs here, and then these little bits on the underside and top that these settle into, like so. And yeah, can you tell I'm not enthusiastic about this? So this gives you the dead matrix. These bits can flip around for some reason. Unfortunately, this can't be kept in the chest this way. These bits have to come off and peg into the hip skirts, and I just don't like that. It's fine that there is a matrix gimmick, but it's just more trouble than it's worth in my mind to really mess with. So now that I've shown it off, it's going back in his chest, and these bits are going in the box, and we'll never speak of it again. So with the matrix pegged back in place, this just tilts back inside the chest, and we can close up these doors, slide these bits forward again, get the arms back into position, bring this down, and peg all this back together. I'm happy for the people who like matrix gimmicks for having a matrix gimmick again that they can, I guess, enjoy, but I really don't like how they handle it with this guy. It just is so unnecessarily intrusive. As for the rest of the accessories, though, we can come back to these guns, which are well and good. They can peg into the hand. It's actually kind of an inverse of what we normally get with Masterpiece stuff. Not that this is a Masterpiece, but there's a tab on the palm and a slot in the handle. So the slot in the handle actually goes over the tab that's in the palm, and then you can close the fingers around it, close the thumb around it, and now he's holding a gun. You can also store the gun on the back. You fold up the handle, push this back in. There's a little slot at the top here that actually lines up with these tabs on the backs of these wheel wells. It can go on either side, and it just pegs in there, and that will store it on the back and give him a little bit more of a smokestack look. And you can actually rotate this around too, so you can like bring it forward so it's over the shoulder. You can angle it a little bit. You can have it going back. It's whatever you want to do. Personally, as I said, I'm just going to take these off and leave them in the box. But these are not the most interesting accessories that come with Optus Nox. I feel like we all know this. For those of you who don't know this, well, you're in for a treat. So I'm just going to peg these back together and those off to the side along with the Matrix things, and forget those. So Optus Nox also comes with this big sword, which I don't know if this is from another Mastermind Creations figure. I feel like it might be from their Nova Prime. I forget what that one was called. I know it had a sword that was similar to this, but it may be different. This may be a new one for this guy, but this one, as you can see, has a slot and handle for him to hold, and it looks really good. I like the translucent red blade and the kind of gunmetal colors for the rest of the detailing, and then this kind of evil matrix built into the hilt, which is neat, with that little bit of purple there. So it looks cool. And this can can be held the same way as the guns. You just peg it into the hand, and because the slot is larger than the tab on the palm, you can adjust how high up you want it to sit. You can like move it up or slide it back down. And then you just close the hand around it. And now he's holding a very large and very cool looking sword. And that's cool. I really like the sword. But in addition to that, you can also store the sword on the back. He comes with this little adapter piece, not adapter, but little plug-in thing, that if we swing these wheel wells up and out of the way, you can see there are these little slots or holes in the back here, and there are these little pegs on the base of this clip thing, and you just slide it in, and pegs in theory. Why is it not pegging in? There we go. It pegs in, and I just knocked the sword out of his hand. That's fine. The sword is actually held in there pretty well. It's just that I was like, this was leaning up against the desk, and that kind of leveraged it out. But that pegs in there, and then the sword can clip in here by just sliding in here, and you can't really, you can slide it in this way, kind of, and it does work, but that's a lot of plastic to scrape against as you try and settle it down here, and it does actually get a little bit wider up around this part. So what I end up doing is I just clip it in right around here by getting one side in, push these up a little bit more, getting one side in here, and then pushing the other side so that it kind of clips into place like that. And this gets you the sword stored on his back, and that's also pretty cool. But that isn't all either, because you also get a big wired fabric cloak thing, and this is very cool. So the way they did this is there's a hole in the spot where the neck and head is supposed to go, and this just goes over the head, sits around it, and you could just leave it at that if you wanted, and this can settle around. Should have rotated these down before putting the sword on. You can, if you want, just push the cape, cloak, whatever on, and leave it at that, and that works pretty well, and you've got a lot of wire stuff to mess around with to kind of get things to settle right. But they also included this piece, which has a little slit up top here so you can move it, and this is a malleable kind of plastic. And this is designed to go around the neck and head to essentially keep the cloak down and out of his face. It doesn't clip together or anything like that, but it will line up and kind of go back into its closed position around the back. And that will keep everything from bunching up around his head and neck. And this is just so cool. I absolutely love this, and it is very, very neat. And then of course you can take the sword out and give him the sword if you want to do that instead. So yeah, you can have a fair bit of fun with the posability on this guy, and this is just like simple stuff, but like you can get really dynamic. I like the cloak and the sword. It's just such a cool combination of accessories. I put all of the stuff on him again just to kind of show you. You can have him fully equipped with everything. You've got the forearm guns, the cloak, the little neck piece, the sword, the guns. So you can outfit Optus Nox with all of the stuff. Even the annoying Matrix holders, those can sit in there. Nemesis with the cloak is just such my jam. Anyway, let's move him back there and readjust so we can do our final round of size comparisons. Here he is, towering over the standard deluxe squad. And I know that MMC figures aren't masterpiece scale, but he's still quite tall. Here he is. Let me scoop things in a little bit more, but here he is with Mastermind Creations Spartan, which again, I've said this before, but I will continue to say it. While I joke about the duck tank thing, Spartan is an incredibly good figure. But we're not done. We have the other pseudo-tradition with Mastermind Creation figures, which is to trot out a bunch more Mastermind Creation figures to do comparisons with. So, here he is with Exodus, their Getaway, Aether Beta / Deadlock. These two actually look like they're really going to get into some trouble together. Coulter or Tarn, and it's hard to tell, but Optus Nox and by extension Optus Pexus is very slightly taller than Coulter at the head, like by maybe a fourth or a fifth of a head. Here he's with Titanica, aka Strika, and he is actually a little bit taller than Titanica. And last, but by no means least, and how dare you think otherwise, here he is with MMC's Eris Coulter, and Eris is actually a teensy bit taller at the head. She's about as much taller compared to Optus Nox as Optus Nox was compared to Coulter, I think. Also, from what I can tell, I'm pretty sure Optus Nox and by extension Optus Pectus have the same hands as Eris Coulter. The only difference is Eris's hands are purple. And yeah, that is going to do it for the size comparisons, and by extension that is going to do it for Mastermind Creations Optus Nox. And this figure is so good. So good. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure I mentioned this earlier on in the video that like I didn't dislike Optus Pexus, but it just wasn't quite that it didn't wow me as much as it was wowing everyone else. I thought the articulation was incredible, but like I didn't really like the transformation that much, and the vehicle mode was just kind of a meh, whatever. But in black, and I guess, okay, I said no teal, you get a tiny bit of teal in the pelvis section there, but like in black and a little bit of red, tiny bit of teal, a little bit of gunmetal, like this mold shines so much better in this color scheme. And it also helps that now I know how to transform it into truck mode in a way that does not make me want to get rid of the toy. Now that I know how to transform him properly, I actually do really enjoy the transformation. It's just knowing to wait to slide up the legs till the end that really matters. But yeah, this thing is incredible, and I think we've established at this point that I am a Nemesis fanboy, and a Nemesis with a cloak, I am all yours. So yeah, this is a fantastic figure. It's as great as Optus Pexus was, but in my mind, even better because of the color scheme and the added accessories. This is quite possibly, geez, do I want to say it's my favorite Nemesis Prime figure that I own? Oh, that's a tall order. I don't know if I can say that he is my favorite Nemesis figure that I own, but he's definitely up there. If you like Nemesis figures, get him. If you like MMC figures, get him. It's so worth it. The accessories kind of really sell this one, but just look how cool this is. But I've rambled about all of this enough, so yeah, thank you everybody for putting up with my nonsense. Whatever your thoughts are on MMC Optus Nox or Optus Pexus, or MMC in general, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. If you are interested in supporting the channel beyond simply watching the video, which is support, but if you're interested in doing more than that, there is a Patreon, which there's going to be a link in the description as well as at the end of the video. And it's just a single tier. It's $1, and it will support the channel as well as get you early access to videos, some access to the occasional behind-the-scenes posts that I do, and eventually when I get enough patrons, I'm going to start doing polls. So if you want to have any kind of say in channel content, that kind of stuff, then there is that. But with all of that out of the way, thank you everybody for watching, and remember, art is more than meets the eye.